our regular series of lecture, Learning with the Leaders, and we have another expert leader today to deliver us a lecture, Dr. Ramesh, Raliya, or how do you spell Raliya or Raliya? Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct, sir. Raliya.
Thank you. Dr. Raliya is the General Manager, R&D of the IFFCO, and he is the co-founder of Smart Aerosol Technologies USA. Prior to joining IFFCO, he was research scientist at the Department of Energy, Environmental and Chemical Engineering at Washington University in St. Louis. Dr. Raliya's research expertise is in the product and technology development. He has invented processes of synthesizing novel inorganic and organic nanoforms with independently controlled properties. These nanoforms have been used to study their impact on plant nutrition, plant protection, biomedical uses, including drugs delivery, therapeutics, imaging, water chemistry, energy storage materials, sensors, and environmental interactions. It's a very, very important field. He has published more than 75 peer-reviewed journal articles, published 3 books, and have over 15 patents to his credit. What is very important is that his papers have been cited more than 5,000 times with an H index of 36, which is a clear recognition of the level of research work of Dr. Raliya. Recently, his technology on nano-urea fertilizer was awarded for the Research Development and Innovation Award of 2021 by the Fertiliser Association. So we look forward today to an interesting talk from an expert of the field. Dr. Raliya, your field, please.
Thank you, Honorable Sir, for giving a kind introduction. And I would like to thank S. Nanji for giving me an invitation to interact with all of you. I'm so grateful to all the members of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers are present here and giving me an opportunity to interact this morning. So I'm sharing a brief presentation. Is my screen visible to all?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, yes, thank you. So good morning again to all of you. We will discuss or talk about nanotechnology based application for sustainable and precision agriculture. We will discuss its current state and some of the future perspectives. Dear senior colleagues, because sustainability and precision is required to meet the food demand of the growing population. If we see this data of United Nations, FAO, we can see that the population and the food demand or the food insecurity is not only related with the population, but also related to the economy as well, as this graph suggests, in terms of food insecurity. So for that, we need to increase the crop productivity over the period of times. If we take the base year, this is a recent paper published in Nature Nanotechnology. If we take the base year of 2008 up to 2050 to feed the global population, every year we need to increase the crop productivity in terms of yield improvement by 2.4%, particularly for 4 major crops consuming globally like maize, rice, wheat, and soybean. And this is without bringing the additional land under cultivation. As we know that arable land is consistently going down, and increasing the crop production pressure also requires to increase in the agricultural input. In past, chemical engineers and environmental engineers and genetic scientists and agricultural scientists played a very crucial role through interdisciplinary science and engineering applications, whether it is changing the genes, which we call, or developing the new varieties through the genetics, using the machines, agrochemicals, or in fact, even the water optimization, whether by optimizing the mass flow and use efficiency of water through, whether it is through drip irrigations, through sprinklers, or in past, including increasing the shelf life, texture, flavor, quality, and quantity of the food over the period of times. Importantly, chemical engineering played very significant role by developing a process called Haber-Bosch process, popularly known as to manufacture the ammonia, and which we use to manufacture nitrogenous fertilizer across the world. There are some foundational problems which the world is facing right now. I would like to start with realization of Malthus theory, which talks that human population grows exponentially, whereas food production grows at arithmetic rate. And we are at the verge because we know that more than 800 million people in the world is not getting adequate food every day. So that's why we feel that we are at the Malthus trap right now. So we need more food, and our food production rate is lesser than the required. It may be, some people may argue that we are also doing 40% food waste that what we are producing today. So certainly we require to increase the shelf life that we discussed in the previous. Then the challenge related to shrinking the farmland. We all know that all our agriculture land, which we were seeing around our cities, schools, colleges, and now we see that many of that is now being converted into highways, roads, townships, colonies, different industries, because we need employment, we need residents, because growing population is not only required food, but it required multiple requirement in terms of infrastructure. Then the impact of climate change is very evident. Limited natural mineral resources. If we talk about agricultural crop production or agri input, particularly like fertilizer, we know that even we talk about major nutrient like phosphorus, the pockets of phosphate reserves or potassium reserves are at the very limited place across the world, and their distribution and utilization is varying. So the natural resources are very limited. And then divergence, like food and biomass energy. We know that now in India also, we are started producing ethanol through corn. So earlier we only produced food to feed the human or cattle or other animals, but now we are also producing crops to produce energy sources. Then certain things are very energy intensive that we are using today, whether it is ammonia production through Haber-Bosch process, or the water utilization efficiency or transport of water for the agricultural and drinking water. And then over the period of time, last 50 to 60, 70 years, we are doing intense agriculture. And that also affects our soil biological health. The reason is using the agrochemicals beyond the recommended doses of fertilizer by the agriculture scientists. And then the agrochemical use efficiency, the fertilizer that inputs, whether it is pesticides, whether it is herbicides, fertilizers, or other agrochemicals, their use efficiency is very low than its desired. So to address that, we think about the major fertilizers, like for example, NPK. About 75% of fertilizer market is captured by these three elements, N, P, and K. if we talk about among these three, the nitrogen is most important. And one of the graph shown by UNFAO, which says that if we don't have this nitrogenous fertilizer today through Haber-Bosch process, the global population would have been just 3.2 or 3.5 billion. But because of nitrogenous fertilizer, the global population is sustaining beyond 7.7 billion. So clearly the agri inputs, the nutrients, fertilizers have very significant role to sustain the increasing global population. As I mentioned previously, there are two kinds of plants. One is legumes, another is non-legumes. Legumes can fix their own nitrogen, whereas non-legumes cannot fix their nitrogen. So we have to put N and P and other nutrients, including like other nutrients we also have to put for legumes as well. But their use efficiency is less. When the use efficiency is less, this unused agri inputs, I'm talking about particularly the fertilizer. Unused fertilizer is reaching to the environment. And when it reaches to the environment, it affects our soil, air, and water. Whether it is contaminating the groundwater like nitrate pollution, the air like nitrous oxide emission, or water in terms of eutrophication. And it's a big challenge across the world. The nutrient runoff, leaching, and causing eutrophications. So to meet the AgTech solutions in future, we need to address three things altogether: food, energy, and water nexus. In common, we can say few nexus. So to achieve this, we have to work on the principle of minimum input to maximum output and having the sustainability. Whether it is cost down the fertilizer in today's time, it's very difficult to say, because we can see that last 1 year, how the fertilizer prices are going up across the world. Then increase the yield and not only the yield, but also the nutritional quality of the food that we are producing. Then the optimum fertilization to save the natural mineral resources, and then reducing the water pollution. This can be done by adopting the technologies or by working on the technologies for the sustainable production of agri inputs. People are talking about green energy, green ammonia production, green hydrogen, so on. Optimal use of the agrochemicals as per the recommended dose of fertilizers. Enhances use efficiency, whether it is water use efficiency or fertilizer use efficiency or other agrochemical use efficiency. And recycling and reuse, whether it is, can we reuse the fertilizers, which is already like there is a nitrogen recovery from waters, and how we can recycle the water and nutrients from the waste streams and so on. There are various efforts are being made to minimize the impact of unused agrochemicals, whether it is at the regulation or policy level or at the research level. At the regulation and policy levels, if we talk about, there are 4R nutrient stewardship framework program. India is also part of that, where we use at the right doses, right concentration, at right time, in right places. But there are some more concerns, like recently in last year, the British government discussed a consult and released a framework in which they gave one of the options that can we ban the use of solid to crack down the air pollution. And or they also the other options that use the urea with urease inhibitors, or they use the urea only between certain period of times, like from January 15 to March 31, so that the nitrogen emission could be less in the environment. And then there are discussion that who will pay this price, whether it is farmers or governments or manufacturing industries. Like these kind of discussions are also there. But towards the research, where we play, like we as a scientists or researchers can play the role, the various developments comes in last 50 years. If we summarize them, it started with the coating of fertilizers. Like in India, we are having neem oil coated urea fertilizer, which has other benefits, but also because it has hydrophobic core on the surface, so it makes the slow release, it reduces the volatilization. Then comes with mixing of multi-nutrients, whether it is mixing of macronutrients, micronutrients, like zincatate, urea, NPK, various other complex fertilizers. Then there was a development related to enabling them to dissolve, or we call water soluble fertilizers, WSF popularly, or liquid fertilizations, and through foliar application, through drip irrigations. And then came with co-fertigation that gives certain inorganic chemical fertilizers, and then also use some biological organisms or their extracts in terms of biostimulants, which can increase the use efficiency or help in mobilization of native nutrients, whether it is native phosphorus mobilization or increase nitrogen use efficiency or zinc uptake or something like that. And then that comes with the reducing of the particle size. Remember that in the enabling them to dissolve in water soluble fertilizer, we already reduced the particle size because we already came with the ions which are at the angstrom scale. But we all know that the difference between ions and particles are quite different. So reduction in the particle size to increase the better use and dispersion, where the up to nano scale, where the role of nanotechnology comes in, and we talk in depth now. So if we talk in a summary form that what are the nanotechnology application in agriculture today? So fertilizer is just one. There are a lot of other applications in agriculture related to nanotech, whether it is nanosensor to monitor the plant health, plant stress, whether it is abiotic or biotic stress, or help plant to protect against pathogenic organisms or pathogenic attacks in form of nanopesticides, or in terms of genetic engineering, where you can do the target delivery of nutrients or agrochemicals or even genes targetly, whether it is to chlorophyll, to mitochondria, or to the whole genome where in the cytoplasm, or seed coating to increase the seed germination rate, to improve the health of seedlings.
If you see here the storage tank, so T2 is a higher temperature, T1 is a bottom temperature. Then you can write it as
please stop your
Q, or energy is nothing but
audio
dot Cp dt T1 to T2, and mass we can write it as a density.
Thank you. There are nano fertilizers given through soil applications, through foliar applications. There are nanomaterials to manipulate the soil microbiome, whether it is increasing the efficiency of organisms to sustain in an stress period, whether it is low moisture content, whether it is high pH or low pH conditions, because we know that biofertilizer is limited by the environmental conditions. And then nanomaterials for soil conditions. So there are a lot of diverse range of applications is being studied, explored both by the academia and industries, research and development to advancing or addressing. If we talk about that, what kind of nanomaterials actually being explored for the agricultural application. So I have placed this periodic table here and circled some of the elements with blue color, which means that these blue colors are extensively studied or reported in the scientific literature to find out that how these materials can help in its nanoscale form to increase the crop productivity or agricultural sustainability. There are essential nutrients, there are non-essential nutrients as well, and there are elements which are not considered as plant nutrients, like for example silver or gold or ceriums. These are, or titaniums even, these are being tested for the fundamental perspective, whether it is transport of nanoparticles inside the plant system or increasing the plant photosynthesis, like for example titanium, or the silver as a nanopesticides. So there are a lot of other applications are coming in, like for example cerium for avoiding certain salt stress and something like that. So people are exploring range of materials beyond the list of essential macro and micronutrients of the plants. If we talk about what are the major publications coming in, there are major publications so far in the literature are related to titanium, copper, zinc, and silver. The reason is before 2015, if we see, most of the literatures are coming from only these 4 or 5 elements, because these are the elements being synthesized for other applications, whether it is catalyst applications, for sensing applications, or other biomedical applications. And these are the new elements which are also being used in other industries, like plastic industries, paint industries, semiconductor industries, solar photovoltaic industries. So that's why these materials are being tested on crops as in potential contaminants to the plants and to the human food chain. So that's why like these more literature were from these 4 elements, but now being explored several other elements, as I mentioned here. And the reason, as I mentioned here, that these elements are easy to scale up, to control their nanoscale properties. Like for example, if you want to control crystal phase, like titanium, there are rutile, anatase, and amorphous. So all 3 type of crystal phase behave very differently to the plants. Like one may be highly toxic to another may be compatible to the crop. And then when we talk about agriculture, it's easy to scale up micronutrients like requiring less quantity compared to the bulk like NPK or S, and then the cost effective production. Because of the time limitation for this particular talk, I have placed few papers here where our research has been cited, like in Journal of Agricultural Food Chemistry by ACS, or Nature Nanotechnology article that guiding the design space of nanotechnology to advance sustainable crop production. And our research also highlighted in Forbes a few years back, and also World Economic Forum, that Cancer to Crops, how nanomaterials can help addressing these big problems by controlling the particle size between 1 to 100 nanometer. When we talk about agricultural application particularly, the question comes that once we make these nanoparticles, how to deliver these nanoparticles to the plants. We are giving these nanoparticles to the plants for fundamental application or study all 3 applications, like aerosol applications, drop test applications, soil applications. And we can check that, because when we talk about nanoparticles, not only the mass concentration, because currently we are doing applications like 120 kg nitrogen we applied per hectare. But when we talk about nano, we also have to see that how many number of particles we are applied to the plants. We have done various fundamental studies using model particles as well. And we have monitored particles delivery, number concentrations, their size through the scanning mobility particle sizers, through inductive coupled plasma mass spectroscopies, to see that where these particles actually ending up inside the plants and how they are working. We have found that when we give these nanoparticles to plants through foliar applications, whether it is aerosol or through the drop cast, it has better use efficiency compared to the soil. And we see that in soil, it's relatively better than its conventional, but still it is far less than it is desired. And it is very evident because when we make these nanoparticles in contact with the soil, soil is a very complex medium. It contains various ions, it contains various salts, microorganisms, like it's a very complex medium. So what it does that it changes the ionic interaction on the surface, change the carbon to oxygen ratio, and ultimately it changes the zeta potential, which basically affect the nanoparticle properties and ultimately the use efficiency by the plants. So thereby, this nanomaterial controlling the properties is very important. In our laboratory, we have tested range of process, whether it is biological process to make nanomaterials or chemical or physical, like both top-down approach as well as bottom-up synthesis. And in the bottom-up synthesis, particularly the one of the product, which I will mention later, is synthesized using the molecular state or bottom-up fabrication. Using this aerosol technology or bottom-up fabrication technology, we can make these nanomaterials of different shape, different size, different morphologies, whether it is hollow particles or solid particles, or having various surface properties so that we can modify the surface and nutrient can be released in response to plants requirement and something like that. So we are working on range of different type of nanomaterials. As you can see in this picture, there are various transmission electron microscope images at the bottom of these model nanomaterials that we developed in our laboratory. When we synthesize these nanomaterials, because nanotechnology has vast applications, one nanomaterial can use in agriculture, the same nanomaterial can also be used in other applications. I would like to thank, with using this platform, to all the collaborators who use our nanomaterials in different range of applications over the period of times, whether it is electronics or biomedicals, in addition to agriculture and vast scale applications. It is very important that before taking nanomaterials to the farm field, we test them properly, because every material behave very differently based on their properties. So we test these nanomaterials in the controlled environment, like greenhouses, in the hydroponic environments, aeroponics environment, and then we test in the field environment. And after the testing in the field environment, we also partner with ICR institutes, with CSR institutes, and we evaluate them from their efficacy and safety perspective. One of the product I would like to mention here is introduced in India is about nanourea. Nanourea is a nitrogenous fertilizer developed by Indian Farmers Fertiliser Cooperative Limited. This product is now IFFCO approved and also evaluated as per the Department of Biotechnology guidelines. This product evaluated at the ICR institutes across the country, and also by some of the CSIR institutes as well. This provides nitrogen and has better use efficiency than its conventional bulk counterpart. When we talk about nanourea properties, why we developed this nanourea? Because as we discussed early on, that nitrogen is one of the nutrient which is most used fertilizer. And among all, if we talk about nitrogenous sources, urea is the most used fertilizer. So thereby we worked on that at the first phase. That was the motivation behind that. When we talk about nanourea, its particle size is 20 to 50 nanometer. And if we talk about conventional urea, typically the size range between 1 to 3 millimeter. On an average, it's about 2.2 to 2.8 millimeter. When we talk about nano, when we reduce the particle size from its bulk, and if we keep the same mass, we see that the surface area to volume size ratio is much higher, about 10,000 times the surface area to volume size ratio is higher than the conventional bulk particle. Its physicochemical properties, whenever we talk about nano, there is a talk about quantum phenomenon, quantum properties of the materials. And these quantum properties of the materials also affects the other physicochemical properties, improves the biointeraction, and it enhances the use efficiency due to its small size, but also its release kinetics, as well as use interaction by the plant inside the plant cell. And it also, whenever we talk about nano, we also have to talk about number concentrations, mass concentrations, and surface area concentrations. Not the alone, we cannot compare with just the mass concentration, because whenever we talk about nano, if you read any paper about nanomaterials, in the very first paragraph, most of this paper mention that because of the surface area to high volume size ratio, nanomaterials show this and that property. So that's why it is very important that we talk about surface area concentration and number concentration of particles. Here is the electron microscopic image of nanourea. On one side, you see black and white picture. On other side, you see the particle size characterization by number distributions using the dynamic light scattering, and the bottom is surface zeta potential of these particles. Surface zeta potential is basically the charge on the particle surface. Sorry, it's going a little fast. Okay, sorry for the glitch. So when we apply these particles through foliar applications, these particles can get uptake by the plant stomata, by the hydrothioids. And then once these nanoparticles get uptake, these particles can go all around the plant based on its requirement through the concentration gradient. But the absorption is independent of that. And these nanomaterials can transport it through the phloem translocation mechanism or the simplest translocation mechanism. And then they interplay with the nanoparticle properties or plant stress or transformation, release kinetics over the period of times, and the physiological interaction of the plant. There are several other composites that we are also working on, and we have worked in past as well, that increasing the crop biomass for the leafy vegetables. We developed where we can increase the crop biomass over the conventional fertilizer, about 26% increase in the crop productions. This is an NPK composite that we are working on. And these nanomaterials not only provide the nutrients, but also play the role in as an stimulatory role. Like, for example, as you can see here on this graph, that these nanomaterials also increase the light absorption by the plants. Why the light absorption? Because we also see through the mechanism, then it also increases the chlorophyll contents. So it has like a lot of insights in the plants to increase the crop production and crop health as well. If we talk about nano urea, we have tested this nano urea across India in all states, and we have tested on more than 94 crops. This nano urea has been tested on more than 11,000 farmers field, and it has been tested by the state agricultural universities, Indian Council of Agriculture Research Institutes. We have partnered with more than 20 research institutes, and we did field trials now for 3 years. And after this trial and testing across India, we concluded that on an average, it increases the yield by 8%. And when we see the fertilizer reduction, we have reduced fertilizer with like 25%, 33%, 50%, or 100%. But we see that the maximum we see that it can reduce the requirement of conventional urea by 50% and increase the yield by 8%. We have tested this product as per the Department of Biotechnology guideline, which was developed in consultation with industry stakeholders, with academia and R&D and policymakers and ICR research institutes, and through the interministerial collaboration. So based on that holistic guideline, which is developed on the principles of OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, based on this guideline, this product has been evaluated with respect to all the flora and fauna present around the agriculture farm field, whether it is birds, or mice, or earthworms, or pollinators, or including the human beings. So this product has been tested through the NABL accredited laboratory from the safety and toxicity standards. And after this complete evaluation, this product has been included in the fertilizer control order earlier last year in February 2021. And there are like various talks, various independent evaluations are ongoing in past as well. And one of the thing I would like to highlight here, that it has, particularly this product, nano urea, has a lot of economic advantage to India in addition to its advantage on the crop production. Because in India on urea, we are giving huge subsidy on that, on the conventional urea, and it has an economic advantage. And it was also mentioned in this year's economic survey as well, and also mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister and Fertilizer Minister several times. IFFCO is very open to collaborate on its latest technology and also open to share the technology in the interest of farmers. IFFCO has collaborated with we signed an MOU with Indian Council of Agriculture Research to further evaluate, to develop other nanomaterials for agricultural applications, also with IIT Delhi. And IFFCO has also transferred this technology and signed an MOU for that with the National Fertilizer Limited and Raliya Chemical Fertilizer to get this fertilizer accessible to Indian farmers at the affordable price. And IFFCO just did not charge any significant amount, just at the token money of 100 rupees, IFFCO transferred these technologies. So the aim here is not to earn the money, but to transfer the best technology, best product for the farmers. And IFFCO is also helping through IFFCO, India is also helping its neighboring countries. Like recently in Sri Lanka, India exported nano urea to Sri Lanka as well. Because the product is new and there are like a lot of questions, comments from various stakeholders, whether it is farmers, whether it is industry or academia or friends in general. So IFFCO has developed a dedicated website called nanourea.in. On this website, we have provided all the details of these products, including how the journey was, how it was developed, how it was developed, what was the results, what was the responses, and also the farmers' responses across the country like that. So I would also urge the members attending here that to visit this site and also see what we have put there to address some of the queries as well. For the farmers, we also provided toll-free helpline number and also the information through IFFCO's e-platform that's called IFFCO e-Bazaar. And with the summary of this nano fertilizer for sustainable and precision agriculture, which can be achieved through target delivery by controlled release of new active ingredients, keeping them in plant available form, because we know that most of plant nutrients, as soon as we provide to the plant through broadcasting application or even through spray applications or other fertigation methods, it converted into different chemical forms so that plant cannot uptake that. Because if it is plant uptake the nutrients in particular chemical form, if the chemical form change, plant don't uptake. So thereby we often talk that total nutrient is more in the soil but not in the plant available form, and thereby like we keep putting more and more fertilizer and other agri inputs and affecting our soil health. Nanotechnology can help achieving the principle of requiring less in terms of mass volume and produce more to achieve the agriculture sustainability. And when we address these concerns, it also addresses the concerns of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, whether it is related to pollution, health, food, or other environmental pollutions like eutrophications, etc. But problem is not stop here, because these are the what we discussed is the problems we are addressing currently. But in future, by 2050, we are going to have more population on the earth, and particularly the place where we are sitting and talking, we are going to be one of the highly populous country on this planet. So we have to think and develop more strategies, technologies, and adopting at the faster pace, whether it is related to the sensors for the real-time monitoring of plant and soil health or environmental health, having focus on data science for predictive analysis or optimization, whether it is nanoscience for reducing the requirement of agri inputs or other inputs by mass volume, biotechnologies to improve the cellular efficiencies. Like for example, cellular efficiencies, I would like to just give an example that we are having corn of 6 feet tall. Why can't we have just the corn with just 3 feet tall and having the same yield, so that we require less water? Because we are also facing like that. So, and this is nothing new. People are working on that. We just need to test at the vast scale and translate and adopt at the faster pace. And then fortification, whether it is soil or plant nutrients or food for the human, because today we are having enough food, but every kitchen, every dinner table, we often talk that it is not tasty like 20 years back. It is not nutritious like 20 years back, or it is not, the market food is not good as we eat from the kitchen gardens. Why it is that? Because of the nutrient deficiency in the food. We have enough biomass, but not the nutritious. So we have to fortify, whether it is our soil or plant or for that. And then availability and accessibility, whether it is soil, air, water, seed, fertilizers, market, and education related to this. So India has these resources to adopt and play the critical role in this. And I think we need to work more with the institutes like Institute of Chemical Engineers or Fertilizer Association of India or various other stakeholders, ICR, CSIR, SAUs, etc., to have this advancement and address the concern. With that, I would like to again thank all of you for giving me an opportunity to interact with you. And I would like to acknowledge my organization like IFFCO, and also I would like to acknowledge Washington University, which part of that work I have presented here, also Center for Rural Development and Technology, IIT Delhi. With that, I would like to stop my talk here and would be happy to take your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Dr. Raliya. Yeah, go ahead.
May I
Yes.
request Mr. Chakravarti
Yes, sir.
to take over and ask for question answers?
Thanks to Dr. Raliya for this interesting talk. I'm sure our listeners would have some inquiries about that particular areas. So I would request the questionnaire to be very precise and brief so that more and more people can utilize this time of 10 to 15 minutes maximum. Yes, please.
Of course, you have explained the benefits from the environment point of view, which is no doubt is the benefit from the nano product. What is the comparison of cost of production, which ultimately, if you just, for the time being, if you keep aside the environment angle, just the economics angle, what is the cost of production for the nano urea and the normal urea, if you just compare?
Sir, the cost of production for nano urea is much less using the process that IFFCO has developed, because if you see that the market price for IFFCO's nano urea is just 240 rupees, whereas the conventional fertilizer after the subsidy, the price is 266 or 265 rupees. And that involves 800 to 1400 rupees per bag of a subsidy. So that's why like the production price is much less than the conventional.
No, I would say just the subsidy parts aside for the timing, just the cost of production, purely technology point of view.
Yeah, cost of production is much less, sir, when we compare to the conventional.
Less than conventional urea.
Yes, sir.
Interesting.
How is it that? Can you elaborate a little bit? How can it be less than that?
So like it depends on the process. The process, like for example, we were also like producing other materials which has the cost very high, involvement of the cost. But in this case, we have developed and we are using raw materials which are our cost of production is far less, I would say. I mean, I can take the permission from my marketing director or that department to share these details that what the cost of different breakdowns. But because the selling price is also 240 rupees, so certainly the price is much less than that, sir.
Yes. Yes, the next.
I think the question pertains how it is cheaper than the normal urea, because you are first making ammonia, then it is being converted to urea, then you are making nano urea. So the cost of production of conventional urea, how it can be higher than the nano urea? Because the process of making urea remains same.
Yeah, process of making the urea remains same certainly, but the requirement, if we see, because the cost of production comes as per the requirement that, for example, to manufacture a 1 liter of product or 1 kilogram of the product, how much energy, how much water, how much raw material cost that I require. Yeah. And then the application perspective, that in 1 hectare or 1 acre, how much of the nutrient I'm using that. So from that perspective, the cost of production is the less. That was the point I wanted to say.
I think, Mr. Chairman, just 1 minute. Your starting material is urea, na, Dr. Raliya?
Yes, sir. Starting
yes, sir. So Pradeep made a point that you are starting with a conventional urea and additional processing is there. So there will be additional cost. What you are mentioning is the entire economics. After taking into its use efficiency aspect, the economics is much more favorable. But limited to cost of production, naturally there is an additional cost after you start with the conventional urea. So yes, that is, I think this is
blue dirt.
Some clarification.
I suppose unless the nano urea produced from 1 kg of urea must be some 5 or 6 times more than urea, then the cost may be reduced, but otherwise it cannot be less.
I mean,
is the volume of nano urea produced much more than starting material of urea?
Yes, sir. Volume is much more than that. Like if we talk particularly, like for example, we use about like 10 to 15 tons, metric tons of conventional urea as a source, and using that we can manufacture the product, which is like about 150,000 bottles a day, which is of each of 500 ml. So that way, and that covers, if we cover the area, certainly the cost, if we just cost, as Nansar mentioned, the production cost of the material, then the cost is higher for that perspective. But if we
And
talk about overall economics, the price is much less.
And also the transportation cost will be much more because you will be transporting more of water than the fertilizer, won't it?
Sir, transportation cost from the application perspective, again, if we talk about that, then it will be less, sir, because in case of nano urea, it is being talked that it is the efficiency when we check that, like if we apply one bag of urea, like reduce the urea by 50% and remaining applied through the nano urea, then in that case, if the response that we are getting from a bag of urea, we can get the similar response from a bottle of nano urea. So transporting 45 kg versus the half kg would be less. And also the environment footprints coming out of the transportation would also be very less. And
Actually, Dr. Raliya, again,
yes,
you know, the too short answer is that taking into everything into account, including handling, transportation, packing, because the use efficiency goes up by 50 to 60%, then conventional urea, it gives you a huge benefit in terms of purely economics, or in terms of yield and pure economics, apart from additional advantage of, to the environment.
Can I comment? I think based on the surface area, as you said, it will increase at least 10 to 20 times the surface of the original urea. So you can say that the per unit surface area, this urea will be much more economic.
It's the effective cost.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, can I request for
just
other question?
one more question on this one. Like you just now said, for one bag of urea, you are transporting only one bottle of nano urea. So how do you compare, like one bag contains 40 kilos or 45 kilos of urea. One bottle contains only half kilo of nano urea. And just now you said the efficiency is double, not 100 times.
Sir, when we did these efficacy trials across the country, we did with the fertilizer reduction, because aim was that how to reduce the use of conventional urea. So we did different reduction experiments from like say 5% to 50% and up to 100% replacement. What we have found that in the 3 years of trials, we have found that if we reduce the urea by 50%, and if we use the nano urea, replace the remaining 50% through foliar application. This is the replacement of the broadcast of urea that we are doing. It basically gives an equal benefit that what we are getting from a bag of urea in an acre, the same we can get from a bottle of one bottle spray of nano urea. I would like to cite one of the example in near Rewari in Haryana's district, where the farmers are using like biofertilizers in about 73 farmers field. They are doing trial under one of the KVK there, Karshi Vigyan Kendra, where they use biofertilizers, they use biostimulants, one of IFFCO's product called Sagarika, and then they spray the nano urea along with another product, nano zinc. And in last 3 years trial, they have seen that they are not using the conventional urea through foliar broadcast application, but they only use these 3 combinations and getting a very excellent result in last 3 years. And also we have also consistently monitoring the pH of the soil, the nitrate contents in the ground, the water leachate we are collecting through that, and the nutritional quality. All 3 parameters are consistently improving. So thereby, like we are saying through that perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Can you give some on the nano pesticides also you said?
So we are currently like not in the nano pesticide business, but certainly as an R&D laboratory, we are doing some R&D related to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. For producing any kg of crop, you require some kg of nitrogen, some kg of P. So how that is reduced? Kg of nitrogen cannot be reduced. You can increase the nitrogen use efficiency, but amount of the nitrogen required by a plant would not reduce. Either it has to be supplied by a chemical fertilizer or by through atmospheric absorption.
Yes.
So can you throw light something on this?
Yes, thank you for this question. So if we take I would like to give a little elaborate answer here, that when we talk about like a nutrient to the plants and nutrient balance. So in case of that we talk about this evergreen tropical forest where like there is no addition of fertilizers, but because there's a closed nutrient cycles. But in case of agriculture, it's an open nutrient cycle. So there is certain amount of nutrients get removed by harvesting in terms of grain or in terms of biomass. So when we applied this nano urea, we compared with this conventional urea, and what we have reduced here, that we have not reduced the basal application. In case of basal, farmers use like DAP, MOP or other agri inputs. We have not reduced anything in the basal. There is a 100% basal nutrients were given. Then in the broadcast application, the farmers use the broadcast application of urea, that only we reduced by 50%. And that we given through the nano urea. So that was, and then we compared the nitrogen content or protein content, because that are the leaf total protein content or grain protein content. These are the significant indicators that when the nitrogen percentage is less in the plant, then this content goes down, whether it is grain protein GPC or the total leaf protein content or leaf soluble protein content. And we have found that in fact it increased the leaf protein content, and it has, there is no significant difference between the nitrogen content in the plant leaves, because on an average the plant leaf has the nitrogen percentage ranges from 0.5% to 5% in terms of its dry weight. And we have checked, and more or less in all the experiments that we have conducted so far, we have found an equal nitrogen content in the leaf. And in terms of grain protein content, we have found more. We have dig down in terms of fundamental study that why even applying less nitrogen, why the nitrogen quantity is equal. We have found that it increased the chlorophyll content, which also contains the nitrogen. Then we also find out that there is an increase in RNA content through the gene expression level. And we know that each RNA or DNA have the nucleotides which contain 2 to 5 nitrogen as their structural component. So those are the like fundamental justification as of now, but we are working more on this nutrient balance as well, that through the labeling studies, through N14, N15 labeling, and addressing so that this question can be addressed in more fundamental ways.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
actually, I have one more point to make.
Bhatt Saab, just Mr. Bhatt Saab.
Sure.
Your question was that ultimately chemical engineers look for mass balance.
Yes, sir.
What we have today is you are reducing the losses. You know, plant uptake, as he claimed, may be even higher. Nitrogen plant uptake may be even higher. We have use efficiency of 35%. That means 65% is escaping to either water or atmosphere. So that you are reducing and going to plant uptake. That is the mass balance. That's what your question probably. Yeah, please.
So one more point is, we are anyway as a country consuming more nitrogen than actually required. Maybe this is one of the forms for convincing the farmers to use the less nitrogen. Otherwise, kg required as a fundamental, you have already said that as a fundamental, kg required is the same. But use efficiency and excess which we are already.
No. See, Mr. Bhatt again.
I think.
Mr. Bhatt again, just give me 1 second. There are products which are we call modified urea, etc., which also help to reduce the nitrogen losses and nitrogen use efficiency. Now, you have to increase the nitrogen use efficiency, the application rate will automatically come down. you cannot reduce whatever is required for the yields, nitrogen is required. But as I repeat again, instead of 35% or 40% use efficiency, you can take it up to 60% use efficiency with various means, including nano, probably. So what we are saying is, yes, the use means application rate can be reduced. If we are consuming 35 million tons of urea today, probably we can get the same product or same yield crop yields with 20 million ton urea. That should be the effort. But that's probably what you are referring to. Yeah.
Is it that the
Yes.
increased production of biomass is increasing the efficiency of the absorption of nitrogen and therefore the less requirement of nitrogen?
Sir, we did notice increase in biomass as well as the grain yield. On an average, we have tested on about 94 crops, which includes the cereal crops, which most consumed nitrogenous crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, and we have found that increase in the crop productivity.
So that is the biomass, increased biomass is the crux of the whole matter of increasing the efficiency.
No.
No.
The use efficiency we calculate in two terms, sir. One is how much of nutrient that we are applying to the plant and how much it is being uptake. And second thing, how much nitrogen we actually have, nitrogen percentage in the grain, and then how much nitrogen per kg per hectare we have applied.
So then how the biomass is increased biomass playing the part?
Sir, increase in biomass, mainly if we talk about like leaf, if I'm giving you an example, we have found that it increases the leaf biomass, particularly because we have found that in terms of fundamental, we find more chlorophyll content, more light absorptions. So when there is a more light absorption content in the plant leaf, then more carbon fixation is there. And then more carbon fixation is there, then it increases the biomass in that perspective.
See, nitrogen uptake goes both to the grain as well as to the the plant material, what you calling the biomass. But what probably you are asking is the mechanism. What is the mechanism? Why its use efficiency is higher? That is probably the first question. First simple answer is that when you apply urea, conventional urea, the rate of uptake of nitrogen from conventional urea is very, very slow by the plant. And rest of it is dissolves very fast into water and dissociates into ammonia and escapes into atmosphere or is flushed with the groundwater or whatever, or surface water. The first step for increasing use efficiency was we call coating of, the physical coating. So that you make it, we call it slow release. That plant use efficiency goes up. So nano is one is that it's a slow release. Other, I don't know. I am not expert. He can tell that, it's more targeted for uptake for the plant. So if use efficiency goes up.
Is there any work?
The method of application of this nano urea? Is it with the soil or the crop?
Sir, this is an foliar application, spray on the plant leaves.
Okay.
We recommend to spray 2 times. One is around 30 days after the seed germination and another is a week before flowering or 45 days after seed germination.
Okay.
I have one question.
Is there any work done on other fertilizers other than urea?
Sir, in terms of like nano, we are working on composites as well as like nitrogen phosphate composite or nitrogen phosphate potassium composite or other macro and micronutrients, including we are also testing some of the non-essential nutrients which are beneficial in increasing plant photosynthesis.
You worked for copper and zinc, na?
Yes, sir. We have worked on copper and zinc. We have submitted to CFC, Central Fertilizer Committee, for their review.
So those products as micronutrients are also ready in nano form, but the approvals are still not there.
Yes, FCO approval is not there. We have done the trial. This is the 4th season trial is ongoing. Crop is being harvested right now. But since the CFC approval is not there so far for those 2 elements. which is under consideration right now, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes, Akhilesh Kumar, sir, please.
My question relates to this nano urea manufacture is starting from ammonia and CO2 directly as gases. Are you doing some work, or can you comment on the situation? Status of R&D in this area? Any initiation by IFFCO or anywhere else in the world?
Sir, across the world, scientific organizations are investing huge amount to find out an alternative method to produce ammonia other than Haber-Bosch process to reduce the energy consumption. So people across the world are working on that. I know some of the very fine scientists and laboratories who are working in this area. When I was at Washington University also, we were collaborated with UK, China, Sri Lanka, and also one of the Indian research group to have this, and we made some significant progress. But the yield is very less and the cost is very high. And that product is still, I would say, in the beaker or in the flask stage. So not at the industrial R&D translation stage. But there are efforts are ongoing across the world, sir.
So in now the other question relates to that when this urea is manufactured, a solution is obtained which is around 75% or so in concentration. Can it be used directly for nano urea production?
Yes, the liquid urea that we produce through this Haber-Bosch process before the granulation stage, yes, that can also be used to manufacture the nano urea. Yes, that can also be act as an precursors.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate your questions also through email. I'm just reading.
Oh,
I will send you the articles which I mentioned in the paper and other suggestions.
yeah, I'm basically man of R&D.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
But in industry and have handled very, very large project.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will send you the details through email also, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And using
Thank you.
Yes, using this platform, sir, I would like to invite all of you to, as and when it is possible for you to visit Gandhinagar or Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Please do visit our R&D laboratories so that your insightful wisdom will help us to further improve the crop nutrition or our efforts in research and development. And I really appreciate Nand sir and Somnath sir for giving this opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Raliya, for this interesting talk, followed by highly motivated questions and discussions. We look forward to you perhaps again after some time as our members need. Thank you. We close the session today here.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you.
Dr. Raliya, thank you very much. I have a request to make. Can you share the soft copy of your presentation to us so that we can share with our members and put our website?
Right, right.
Yes, sir.
You may please share with the FAI also so that they can also send to us.
Yes, sir. I will share this to Nand sir in that invitation that come to me in the reply to that email. I will PPT.
Or you can have this posted in your website nanourea.
Yeah, we have posted one general PowerPoint presentation there, but because this presentation was more general towards chemical engineers, so I also added some additional slides. So I will send this.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
How much is the involvement of the chemical engineering as compared to the chemistry in this whole nanotechnology?
Sir, because I have a PhD in chemistry and then worked 7 years in chemical engineering department at Washington University and with environmental engineers. So we have a blend of people having background in chemical engineering, environmental engineering, as well as chemistry and plant sciences.
Very good, very good, very good.
Chemical engineering, if you have to produce anything at an industrial scale, it involves chemical engineering. Without chemical engineering, you cannot produce at industrial scale.
Right, right.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye. Goodbye.